Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's on Disney Plus, and it's time for our weekly live Q&A here on YouTube. So big hello and welcome to everyone joining in for the live stream, but also if you're watching it again afterwards. So big hello to Muppet Don, we've got Noxwave, so Suna Bubba, we've got Caleb and Max. So you guys are all in the chat. Don's already said that he can hear me, which is great. I always like to know that. So each week we do a Q&A. And I answer the questions from our Patreon and our YouTube channel members. They have been submitting questions in advance. We also have the live chat going on right now, so you can submit questions. You can also use the super chat function as well. So if you want to send in a question or become a member, you can do so with that function. Now, I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of questions today because it's been a big week for news. And also, I did make a slight mistake in I put out the question for our YouTube channel members, and I accidentally put it out to everybody. So we got about an extra 20 questions. So what I'm going to do is I took all of those questions, made a note of them, and I have got them, and I am going to answer them all and just throw them in with the mix. So I might run through some of the questions a little bit quicker because we got a lot more than normal, but I thought it was only fair that I at least answered those questions that had been submitted. And also we've obviously got other questions coming in. So because of that, I am going to do this one a little bit longer. I'll make sure all the pre-done questions are done in advance. I'll be jumping in and out of the pre-done questions and the live questions probably about every 3-to-1 ratio, something like that. I'll probably do it like that. And then we'll do some stuff at the end live. So it's going to be a little bit longer because there's a lot of news. So let's jump into it. So let's start off with the top one, really. And it's about the writer's strike. So the writer's strike obviously kicked in back in May. And then the actors' strike started on Friday. So that means now that films across the US and series are now, they're pretty much done in the US. Now, they are able to continue making unscripted content like reality TV shows, cookery shows, things like that. They can continue to make documentaries. So we're still going to be getting content from like ABC News Studios. And like, that's why the full schedule on ABC is very much filled out with reality TV, and Fox has done very much the same. But obviously, if they've been stacking up content, which they have been, that will kind of get them through this winter. They have got content stacked up. For example, with Disney Plus, we know that we got Loki coming up, we got Ahsoka coming up, we got Echo. Next year, we've also got Ironheart, and they have also filmed the most of Coven of Chaos, though I suspect they are going to do some reshoots on that one, so that might be happening. But this kind of all ties into another thing. Bob Iger did speak this week about slowing down Marvel and Star Wars. So that's obviously going to help with all of that situation as well. So for them, it's going to be saving them lots of money. They're going to maybe in some way get rid of this like superhero fatigue by naturally just giving us less to fill in. And so that's going to kind of naturally happen. I suspect we're going to see some big delays to next year's film schedules because Deadpool 3 has finished filming because of the strike. Venom 3 has also been hit. So there's a few things. So there's still stuff in the can, but like I think they have finished Captain America Brave New World. So that should still hit next year. Hopefully if they're not going to do any reshoots, but generally Marvel plan for that. So yeah, we are going to be having a much leaner run on Disney Plus, but I think we were going to be having that regardless of the strike or not. It's just not helping to it because ultimately Disney are planning on making it a lot less. There's not going to be some shows coming back this fall like Grey's Anatomy, etc., because of the strike. Now, there are some interesting things like in regards to this. Yeah, it is very interesting to see how all this comes together. So the schedule is going to be a lot lighter. We have got shows like things like Percy Jackson that's been done. So we're still going to have content, but it's going to be a little bit more stretched out. Now, the thing is that's in some way that is good for Disney Plus is with the addition of Hulu onto Disney Plus in the US later this year, what that is going to be is everything's going to be a little bit more streamlined in terms of content. So when you've got a new show dropping, they are going to be able to stretch things out a little bit better because you've suddenly then got Hulu and Disney Plus together combined kind of keep you engaged. Internationally, that's what we get anyway, but there's enough there to probably keep going. I also wouldn't be at all surprised if maybe Echo gets maybe stretched out a little bit. Maybe they push that one back. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Skeleton Crew gets pushed back. I mean, they've got Acolyte filmed. I think they've also finished Andor season 2. So they've got probably like 2-3 years worth of content stacked up. So there's going to be a lot of content coming in. So as Mahmoud asked, with both the actors and the writers on strike, what will happen to the rest of 2023 in terms of content? There's going to be a lot less, but I think we were going to get that anyway. They've got a lot of stuff stacked up. Now, they can still film stuff like here in the UK, and they can still film stuff in Asia and in like Canada and stuff. They just basically can't use essentially like American actors because we have a different union here, like Equity, and they're not on strike. So things like that aren't going to be having an impact so much. So they're still going to be able to create stuff over here, though they might not be able to bring over like US actors and stuff to take part in it. But Doctor Who has also finished wrapping, so we're going to be doing an article on that in a bit. So that one will be coming next year as well. Plus, you got the specials coming this winter. There is stuff still coming. It's not a complete, like, I feel like compared to the pandemic where we had a complete cutoff, we are still going to be getting content. But I am expecting these strikes to last a long time because there's quite a lot on. There's a lot going on with it. Let's see what we've got here. Question here, Froggy. It says Bad Batch season 3 is free. It's safe. Micho Ang wrapped voiceover work. Yeah, animation generally is if they've done all the voiceover, they will be able to continue to do it because the animators and stuff on strike, so they can keep going. I believe as well, like Family Guy and some of the other shows, they've been stacking up the voice content. There might be shorter seasons, but that will still be coming as planned. Yeah, so a lot of this stuff, they have been stacking up stuff ahead of, they knew it was coming in. So they've been stacking all year, trying to get ahead of it all and trying to rush through and get certain pieces. But yeah, so Bad Batch season 3 coming next year will probably still be coming. Don says, if the strikes don't clear up in the next 5 to 6 months, I reckon Deadpool 3 and Captain 4 will be delayed. Yeah, I mean, if they go through to the end of the year, those ones are definitely delayed because but I think if they go that long, we are looking at it's going to take a long time to get going again. But I think and this was always going to be the case, I think, of that peak TV era where we were getting like major shows and stuff weekly from every single streaming platform, and we had more TV than we could watch. That era is coming to an end. We're going to have a lot less, and that's not just on Disney Plus. I mean, we're talking Netflix, Paramount. Everyone's going to be affected. So Muppets Don says full Monty season 2. Yeah, see, that might have a better chance of getting picked up because if they can flip it around, because it depends if all the actors are on Equity, they might be able to flip it around. But the big problem with that is scripts. If the scripts haven't been written, because I don't know who, if the writer is on strike, they might not be able to do it. So lots of bits and pieces. So I'm going to jump back into. I'm going to try and get through these pre-done questions and jump in and out between the guys. Fanboy Universe says, do you think Disney will let their movies stay in theaters for 90 days or more and then put them on digital and on Blu-ray a bit longer before they go on Disney Plus? Yes. So Bob Iger did state that this week on his interview. He did about a 45-minute interview on CNBC. He did say they're kind of going back to a little bit more of a traditional window where it's theatrical, digital, physical. Whether or not physical and Disney Plus are more closer together, unfortunately, we kind of need to see a few releases before we can see a pattern. Because at the minute, all we've got really is Chevalier and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. We haven't really got any other movies that we can kind of judge on how quickly they come to like streaming. And both of them were very different. I suspect 90 days and then digital, or 60 days and digital, and then we are going to have to wait a lot longer for films to arrive on Disney Plus. Sending them 45 days and 60 days, that's long gone. That's probably, we're not going to be seeing that anymore. These movies need to make money, because while it's better for us as subscribers to get them quick, ultimately, if they do not get enough money to make them profitable, they will not make them. And I think budgets are going to come down anyway. But they need to make money, otherwise they're not going to make them. And they're not just trying to keep making movies for subscription services doesn't make any money, unfortunately. I think we're at that point now where the pandemic is they were able to try stuff in the pandemic and realize that it didn't really work the same way. Fanboy Universe says, since Disney is slowing down things on their content, do you think it will help with quality and make the movies and shows better? I think 100%. As I got to look at it for Marvel. Marvel and Star Wars are a prime example. If you were to say to them, you're only putting out one series and 2 films a year, that means they can concentrate on them so much easier and stronger than them. I mean, you think of what they were trying to put out this year when they said at last year's San Diego Comic-Con. 5 live action series, 4 films, like 2 or 3 animated films. It was too much, and they were stretched, and the quality suffered. She-Hulk was I enjoyed it, but that special effects needed a lot more work, and probably the scripts did. Nick says, should Disney be investing in making a fast service free ad-supported TV, and should they add a live TV tab to both linear channels and fast channels on Disney Plus? I think getting fast channels on Disney Plus might happen. I don't know at the minute if they're just going to license out to fast networks while they work out what it is. The trouble is with putting like a fast channel into Disney Plus is it kind of maybe then cheapens out Disney Plus. They want you to pay, and they want you to pay and have adverts. So in some way, doing a fast service, they might be better just licensing out to some of the platforms. Maybe 1 or 2 fast platforms become more powerful. Disney might want to launch it, but I feel like if they added a free tier on Disney Plus with the fast channels, I mean, they could do. But I think in terms of linear, forget linear. Disney look like they are getting ready to do something drastic with linear, which I know we've got a few questions on, but I'll get into that later. Pat says, will there be a new trailer for the upcoming Percy Jackson series? The official poster was shown today and will be promoted next weekend at San Diego Comic-Con. So I personally think that they were planning on doing something at San Diego Comic-Con. I think that was the plan. And that's why they got the posters on the bags. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they did do a trailer to try to drum up some excitement, but they might be trying to reschedule themselves now, they don't want to jump too early, and they haven't got a lot of publicity stuff. So, I mean, they could probably make posters, but posters are going to be the only posters and trailers are all they're going to have, because if they haven't filmed any intros or interviews or anything before last week, they ain't going to get anything. So I wouldn't be at all. I don't think this is going to come out while the strikes are still happening, but I don't think San Diego Comic-Con is going to be that much of this week. I mean, Disney might want to get some good publicity out there, but I'm hoping so anyway. Froggy, it says, how should Disney ensure Walt Disney Animation Studios' Wish is a global box office hit on a $2 million budget against both the writers and actors strike? I think advertise it. They have to advertise it, and they have to advertise it a lot stronger. They have to have a really good trailer, a really good second trailer. They have to get the marketing on point. I think they are going to have to hit linear a little bit more. They're going to have to reach traditional viewers and trying to get that out there. And there might be a kind of situation, I feel like, with some of these theatrical releases that they might end up getting a bump if we start seeing less TV. You might be like, oh, something new's coming out, I want to go see. Remember, like, that might be something that we might be more inclined to. But if the trailers are good, that is going to get people in. Yeah, it's going to be hard. I think they're going to struggle to get it in. But let's jump out into the live comments. So, Uniloud says, why was Deadpool 3 filming paused? Because the writer's strike. Ryan and most of the actors that are involved, like Hugh Grant, or not Hugh Grant, that'd be a very different movie. Hugh Jackman and like Ryan Reynolds, they will be SAG actors, so they will not be allowed to strike doing it. So that'll be why that one's been done. Ricardo says the studios will now delay movies because the actors can't do press junkets. Yeah, I think we are. I think we could probably see them doing some things like that. In terms of Disney, I was looking yesterday just to kind of have a look. So we've got Haunted Mansion coming up in about 2 weeks. That is going to happen anyway. We then got the Haunting in Venice is then coming out in September. And there's a few British actors in that one, so that might change things up a little bit. And then after that, it's Wish in November. So they've actually they've given themselves a little bit of leeway in terms of releases. So that might be how that kicks in. I'm just going to go to the top here, see what we've got. Matt says, will the writers and actors strike, or do they run out of content at Disney? Not 100% sure what you mean on that, Matt. Kaylee says, missed the last 2 weeks because of vacation. Hope you had a good time. No, you're never a burden. Never a burden. Hi to everybody coming in. Muppet Don says, do you think Disney will ever release a Fury Big Week super cut with Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, and 4 edited into one? No. So Suna says, how much will the price increase when they merge at the end of September? So we don't know if it's going to be the end of September. I did mishear it. I thought they said fiscal. It was actually calendar year. So it could be by the end of this year. I was making so many notes during that interview. I suspect it will probably, I think it's $9.99 for the bundle. I wouldn't be too surprised if it was $10.99 or $11.99 for the new ad free, or so the ad version of the bundle. I think the price point is going to get so close together, maybe even $9.99 for Disney Plus and like $11.99 with Hulu, to try and get as many people as possible to upgrade to get that. And I think the ad tier is just going to go up again, even more so, because they're going to be wanting to get us to go down to that ad tier version, because that's where they make the money. They make more money on that on the ad version than they do on us being on the ad free one. Personally, I'm going to always stay on the ad free one because I like having non ads. But if it was me with Netflix, if they put my I don't watch enough of it to make it warrant I would maybe have ads on that, or don't know, but definitely going to be interested to see how all of this comes together. Okay, let's see. Let's go down the questions. We've got quite a lot here. Morgan says, with Disney CEO announcing more cost-cutting measures and him still persisting streaming will be profitable, could you see the Disney board stepping in, recommending Disney shut down Disney Plus and become a licensor like Sony is? No chance whatsoever. This has been floating around a little bit. The simple reason for this is, if Disney did this, they would give up all of their power, all of their strength, because then you're now reliant on Netflix and Amazon being the only two people that are going to basically be buying your content. So then they get shut out. They want to be the Amazon, and they want to be in charge. They want to have that connection with us. They want to make that monthly money. They can still license stuff out. They're still going to probably license like 20th Century Studio stuff out to other networks. But they know full well of what happens if they lose control. They are too big. They have got Disney Plus will always have subscribers because families will want to watch the movies. And I think the addition of Hulu is really going to you're going to see in America why the rest of us probably internationally are a lot more happy with Disney Plus, because we have all this other stuff in there that keeps us engaged. There's lots of other shows on Disney Plus that I'm watching each week that isn't Secret Invasion. So that's the key thing. And I think once that comes in, people might start shifting their idea of what I think. While you've still got this Hulu and Disney Plus situation, it's very hard to see how they combine together. But no chance at all. That's why Bob Iger wouldn't be talking this week about merging the two together and buying out Hulu if he was going to get out of it. He just wouldn't be doing it. Jesse says, will Elemental be released on Disney Plus in the fall? Yeah. I would probably say, July, August, September. Yeah, probably late September, beginning of October. It's actually doing pretty well in the box office. It's above Lightyear now, which isn't great, but it's picking up momentum, because like here in the UK, the kids' holidays only start next week, or some of them are broken up. So the film has still got the whole of the summer still to go, where these movies are just going to keep pulling in audiences. They don't want to get them out of the cinemas just yet, because this is when a lot of people go to the cinema. And yeah, this movie's doing all right. It's doing pretty well. But yeah, I'd expect September, October time. It's going to be a while. They're going to need to retrain us all to wait a little bit. Frank says, would new episodes of The Simpsons come sooner to Hulu when Hulu comes to Disney Plus in the US, as Fox has first right runs to the series and has a deal with Hulu? Yeah, so what I'm expecting is going to happen with this is shows are going to be debuting on Fox Network, and then they will go to Hulu. And if you obviously have the Hulu bundle, you will then have access to that new episode within Disney Plus. Whether or not you will get access to it just with Disney Plus, until the Comcast situation's out the way, that's a whole other situation. But I suspect if you have a Hulu subscription, you will be able to watch the new episodes within Disney Plus. Like in Canada, in Australia, you get new episodes weekly anyway. But that depends on what's happening this year with how far they got ahead. Kelly said, what are your thoughts on Bob Iger's CNBC interview overall? Okay, so it's kind of like the good and the bad. I think he drastically screwed up talking about the strike, talking about he just put his foot in it and he made himself like public enemy number one, literally 24 hours before they went on strike. That day that they were going on strike. I mean, okay, the idea that he thinks that the actors and writers are being unrealistic, he could have said it in such a different way. He just come across as, and again, there's all this stuff we know of how much money he makes. He just looked awful doing it. He did, and he just, yeah. So don't agree with. I think he really screwed up on that. There were some other things. He was a little bit like, I wouldn't say downtrodden. He was kind of like looking down a little bit. He didn't seem as chirpy. That would have been. I mean, it was a 45-minute interview, so he covered a lot of stuff. There was some interesting nuggets in there. You know, he was very clear about the fact that merging Hulu into Disney Plus. That was very much a case of what he was talking about, which I'm happy with because that's what we've got internationally, and I think it makes a lot of sense. The getting out of linear came as a bit of a surprise, but there's a few questions on that later, so I'll get into that. But overall, really informative. Nice to hear from him directly. We don't get to hear that very often, but I definitely think that was good. Right. Let's get into the questions on the live stream. So I'll start at the bottom. Kenneth says, Iger definitely sounded out of touch when he comments on the strike. If this man said that, he would, yeah, he probably has been getting them, to be fair. Matt says, I think Star Wars and Marvel moving forward, we will see one or two series a year. I think we are going to see a lot less. I personally would actually push Skeleton Crew back into next year and do Acolyte that one and Acolyte next year. Push Andor back into 2025, and so you just do those 2 months. Plus, you're going to have Bad Batch. I think that's enough. I do feel 3 series a year. Last year we had 3. I don't think it's good. I don't think we would go years without Star Wars films. Now we don't need to go like 2-3 months. We can go a little bit longer. Marvel. I think 2 series a year would be good. I think that would be very nice. Personally, I think that would work good if you had 2 series a year and they were like 4-5 months apart away from the films. I think that could work. I think there's still a place for the series, but I think they've got to find their niche. They've got to find what they're doing for it. Kelly said, I feel the reason why we haven't seen it, they might be, there probably has been, and obviously don't want to go too much into that, but yeah, I think there probably has been. Matt says, do you think anyone will buy Paramount Plus? I think the problem with the Paramount, there's been reports this weekend that they are looking to sell, they might have to sell it for parts, because what the problem is, and this is pretty much probably where Warner Brothers comes in, of who's buying. They've got to find companies that are willing to buy. I do not feel any of the big studios like Netflix or Amazon want to get in on linear. I don't think any of them want to do it. There might be some assets in terms of buying, if you could get out of like Sonic the Hedgehog and Mission Impossible and Top Gun. There could be, I think Paramount Studios itself, in terms of the film studio, probably would be a good pick up for like Netflix or someone like that, and to keep in the traditional theatrical run. But I think linear might be tricky. I think they're just going to sell bits for parts. I think, again, with Paramount Plus, I think we have got too many streaming services. There's just too many. The costs of them are all going up. I think really with Paramount Plus, it's that kind of situation. Do they just go? Would it be better for them just to have Pluto TV and then have some of their stuff on there and then just like sell some of it off? Kaylee says, speaking of Paramount Plus, I can't see why they didn't launch in India as a standalone, but licensed it to Joe Cinema. The simple thing is, I think it's India's. It seems to be a big issue there with what's going on. There's a lot of money going into India and they're not getting much out of it. And I think they're all looking at they're all just licensing content. I said, if Activision merger will be closed with Microsoft, if Activision gets licensing. Well, Activision has licensed Marvel stuff in the past, but they've kind of lost all their licensing to a lot of them. So a lot of them have been removed from platforms, so you haven't been able to get. Don says 2 Marvel shows, 3 films. Yeah, I don't have 2. I think 2 films might be better. I think they've kind of pushed the box office a little bit. Star Wars, 2 shows, 1 film. Yeah, I probably could go along with that. Ryan says Disney Animation could do an adaptation, not Pixar, because of the way the studio. I don't quite know what that means. Sorry. Ricardo says one would imagine if Paramount is looking to get sold, Disney could try and get back their catalog, a Miramax film, but the rest, except for the rest of Hulu, I don't think Disney would. But Disney are in a sell mode. They are not in buy mode right now. They are trying to sort themselves out a little bit more. So Suna says, do you think people with the version of Disney Plus and Hulu, because Disney Plus is $7.99 with ads and $10.99 without ads? I wouldn't be at all surprised if that without ads went up to like $13 or $14.99, and the with ads maybe $8.99. But I think they're going to push. It might be like $8.99 for that, but then you can get like the bundle for a $10.99. So that'd be the way they kind of get you into it. Muppet Don says, has the UK price rise happened yet? No, we haven't had one yet, and I think they were gonna. I think there was gonna be one earlier this year. But I feel like they backtracked on it because obviously the this winter with the energy crisis that we've had, with our energy bills going just rocketing and all the problems in Europe, I think it was a smart move for them to not do it. I think that would have been a bad one. Right, let's carry on here. Hen asks, when will we get more legacy content on Disney Plus? I would love to see more from the Fox vote. And titles like the Mickey Mouse Club, Aladdin the series, and House of Mouse from Disney. Right. So I think there is maybe an advantage, and we'll call it a little bit of a thing with the strikes. If Disney have been collecting up their library content, they might have some aces up their sleeves to get them over the next year. Because if they start going in heavy on their library and restoring their library content and kind of looking at it going, we can just keep churning out the stuff, they could backfill with stuff every single week with a couple of things, and it would kind of look like we're getting new stuff, right? If any time it was going to happen, this is the time that it would make sense to do so, because they have got an opportunity now where they are sat on a load of content that they could start pulling in, and it could really start help fill out Disney Plus over this winter with some library content. So they might have been holding stuff back because of that, and also they might just literally be on the lines of, we haven't got any stuff, get as much classic stuff as we've got in hand, get it on there and spread it out over, because they're not just going to need it for this winter, they're going to need it like in January, February, March, April. So yeah, maybe we might not necessarily see it like August. Matt says, what's happening with What We Do in the Shadow season 5? It should be on Disney Plus UK. Right. So the press release that came out a few months ago stated that What We Do in the Shadows will be coming out, I think it's this month, or maybe already on Hulu in the US. And it also stated in one of the things that it'll be coming to Star Plus and Disney Plus around the world. The problem is there was no date, and generally a US press release generally doesn't include international releases, and FX are terrible at putting global releases out. We rarely see it. Everything, especially here in the UK, nearly every FX series has been delayed by a couple of months. I suspect what's going to happen with the show is we're going to have to wait until the entire season has aired on Hulu in the US, and then we will get it. Fortunately, no word yet on when it's coming out. Once it does, I will be posting about it. But yeah, we're not on the US list. So, and again, with FX, we've just got to kind of, it's always a little bit of a pain. Fanboy Universe says, since Bob Iger hinted that they might close down or sell the linear channels, if they sell, who would be the buyer? There's a lot of like consortiums and hedge funds and stuff that are like picking up channels. I think like most recently, like Nexstar did that, where they're picking up channels cheap, putting on cheap content, and just basically just flipping them to kind of get as much cash as they can out of them before people go. There is a market for some to go. Now, whether or not like Club 700 want to buy maybe Freeform out, that might be something that they want to do because they've got that. That might be an issue that they might want to have. Maybe Comcast wants, it's the channels that are going to be worth it. ABC is a little bit more tricky because it's like a major show. But yeah, someone's probably going to be interested in it. There's not very often, but it's important to note it's the channels that are up for sale, not the studios. He was very much along the lines of he likes the content and he wants to keep the content. He just doesn't think linear is a good distribution model anymore. I think personally, keeping ABC in the US and keeping that one rolling and have it as almost like a showcase channel for all your best stuff and kind of do it like, I think there's a I wouldn't necessarily get rid of all of the channels, but I think having like ABC and putting all your best content there might really help viewership, but also just kind of still reach that audience that you don't maybe want to fully cut out. But yeah, they've done it internationally. They've cut all their channels. Kaylee says, what are your thoughts on Disney partnering with Hulu Japan and also with SAG and writers strike simultaneously? Strike forces the studios to get a deal done faster. Yeah, so I think the thing with Hulu in Japan, I think that might be more of a global kind of. I think Hulu is about to become a major part of Disney Plus globally. And I think that deal has been done so that there's less confusion. Maybe that there is at least some connection between Hulu and Disney Plus in Japan, because Japan's is owned by a different company. Maybe they merge at some point in the future. Maybe Disney has brought it to kind of do it. But my personal feeling is that it feels a little bit along the lines of making sure Hulu is part of it. And as far as the deal, yeah, I think with them both on strike, things will probably go through a bit quicker. But yeah, very tricky. Let's jump back now into the live questions. Kelly says, I feel ABC and FX could be spun off where Disney still has control, but another owner will have a say. See, I think the trouble is they could probably sell off the channel, the channel rather than what's on it. Or they maybe even just lease the content off of Disney. But like, to me, I feel like the Disney channels are probably like at risk because the viewership is so low and kids are watching less TV and they have much more restrictions on advertising on that. So that might be one they could maybe go. I think Freeform is definitely on the chopping block. National Geographic, maybe a consolidation of the two. But I think FX is maybe, yeah, that could go. I mean, they could necessarily. I think the trouble is, I think Disney quite likes having the FX content because it's kind of like the HBO brand. But look at what's happened, like with some of the channels. You can have a company buy those channels, but they don't necessarily have to stay as FX. They could be like rebranded as something else. Muppet Don says, if ABC got brought, would Disney still make things like Jimmy Kimmel and Dancing with the Stars, but have to air it on ABC first? Who knows? Very tricky. If they sold ABC, that might go. If things like Jimmy Kimmel and stuff, these shows, do they need to keep making them for streaming? They could just make them for whoever ABC is brought for and pay, and they get paid for them. They might just look to be like, these shows just aren't worth the effort anymore, so we're not going to do them. I was thinking that the other day, like if they didn't have ABC, you got all the things like The View and all those game shows and stuff. It's like, would they still carry on making them, or would they shut them all down, or would they just continue to make them and then sell them to the linear networks? I don't know. Very tricky. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Very interesting to see how it comes in. As Kelly says, Freeform is likely going to shut down once they get a deal with the Christian broadcasting. I think it's more likely. I wouldn't be at all surprised if it went the other way, if they actually ended up buying Freeform. Because I'd be like, have it for $1. You do want it? Just have it. Unilad says, when's Bob Burger leaving Max and Hulu after year release? Yeah, they're probably going to be leaving Max pretty soon, I would imagine, because it's probably been there a while. It's probably, the thing is, they leave Hulu and then they come back to Hulu because, yeah, it's a little bit less tricky with the Hulu stuff. Unilad says, if Sony brings Spider-Man into the verse on Disney Plus in the US, if Sony's still licensing, yeah, they are still licensing, but the Into the Spider-Verse films will have to go to Netflix first in the US. Matt says, I think Disney could end up consolidating their Disney channels like they really need to do with Disney XD when they have the regular Disney channel. Do they really need Freeform if they have FX? I think we are going to see them sell off some channels. Whether or not they just got down to Disney Channel, Nat Geo, FX, and ABC, maybe just one of each, or if they just go ABC left, I don't know. Very hard to know, isn't it? Very, very tricky to see what they're going to do with it. Matt says, will we see more international shows on Disney Plus? Ooh, I think we are about to go through a drastic reduction in what we are seeing. Bob Iger has said about the fact that there's been some countries have had too much focus on their own content, and I don't know if that was, well, looking at what they've removed, they've removed a lot of content from Turkey and they've removed a lot of content from Latin America. They're kind of cutting back on what they're making in Korea. So whether or not that's where they go, well, that's where some of that's happening. Some of the European stuff, I think they're still going to have to make some to kind of comply with rules and keep governments and stuff happy. I think they're going to have to do that. Stuff being made like here in the UK and Australia and Canada, that still works for them because they English speaking, they get basically a whole other area of stuff being made with experts and people from other countries, and it just means they can produce more stuff when having studios all over the place. So it actually makes sense for them to continue doing that. It's like here in London and in Sydney, that's still going to, and they do a lot of stuff in Canada. So I think that's still going to be carrying on, but we are going to probably see a drastic reduction in Disney Plus international originals going forward because they're not being watched enough. I think there was this rush with like Squid Game of like following it all. I think we're still going to get I think we might get a lot of anime from Japan still. I think that's still an area that they seem to be interested in. But yeah, as Matt says, classic stuff. It would for Disney's 100, I would like to see Disney Plus add more movies and TV shows being put. I think we're more likely going to see this stuff happening. Definitely happening in. Matt says, I think the idea of spin-off cable channels doesn't work well in a streaming era. They initially existed to make use of their growing libraries. I mean, you used to have like different channels and stuff, but yeah, I just don't. The amount of people that watch linear, and also, I mean, I know like myself. I mean, I have Sky Television, so it's a satellite system, and I can watch live TV. So I will watch BBC and ITV and BBC News and stuff like that live. But a lot of the time, the box will allow me to download stuff or record stuff. So like I'll record like the weekly some of the shows. We tend to watch them on like basically fast forward and go for the ad. We rarely watch it live, and we are I mean I probably would get rid of it, but very tricky. Right, let's carry on. So I think we're about halfway, maybe about halfway through those questions. I'm going to keep going. Like I said, this one's going to be a little bit of a long one, so I do apologize. So Daniel says, do you think it's safe bet that we will hear about a Disney Plus merger next month when the earnings call is meeting occurs? Yeah, I think next month would be probably a good time to get some more information. Depends if they're going to be doing it in like September, October, or if they're going to be holding out until like November. Elliot says, do you think Disney will be pulling content from their library collection, from their legacy content, or do you think Disney Plus will have enough content to keep people subscribed until the Hulu Disney Plus merger happens? I think they're going to do a little bit over the next couple of months just to kind of build up for the Disney 100. I think that makes sense for them to do it while they're kind of filling the gaps with some of those. They can put in they don't need to put in a lot. They can put in one or two things a week, and that would probably keep them going. But I think once we've got the Hulu stuff in there, and then you're getting like new content dropping in like Monday Futurama, Tuesday you're getting Only Murders in the Building, Wednesday you're getting your normal drops, Thursday you're getting like an ABC documentary, Fridays you get, when you start seeing that happening in Disney Plus all the time, you start seeing more new stuff rather than at the minute it's just like Wednesday. Balbeck says, what do you think about Iger extending his contract? Personally, for me, I think that was a good thing. I think Disney needs stability. I think that does give that. I think trying to turn around the problem that all the problems he's been facing isn't enough time. I don't think trying to train somebody up next year while dealing with all of this is a good thing. This gives him a little bit extra time. I wasn't surprised. I was like 99% sure this was going to happen because he's not very good at leaving, and there's just so many problems that they need to fix. And I think this is for the best. I do think we're getting to a point now where we need to see that vision. We need to see where they're going, where they're moving. I think we're going to see a much leaner, sleeker Disney. I think they exploded a little bit too much with the Fox purchase, and they haven't really been able to, with the pandemic and everything, they've really not got all of their ducks in a row. Connor says Viaplay are the latest company to announce cuts to its streaming business. Could this be a good time for Disney to acquire Nordic content and sports from them? So in general, we are seeing a massive reduction in streaming because there is just not enough cash for us all. How many subscriptions do you subscribe to? You are not going to subscribe to everything, and there's too many of them. As far as Nordic content, I don't think Disney want to go anywhere near. I think they are drastically pulling back on international content. I don't think they want to be spending money on this. So I don't. And sports, ESPN's going through its whole other thing. So that's, yeah. Matt says, if the writers and actors eventually get their demands, which include more residuals from streaming, do you think this will result in streaming services downsizing their libraries anymore? Yeah, there's a big problem with the fact of with the residuals of it becomes a much issue down the line. I think the residuals from streaming is going to be a big stumbling block for the strikes. I don't think the studios want to carry on this system into streaming as the core business as they move away from linear. They've been doing it through linear. They're going into a new business, and I think they want to set up a new system. And I think they're going to put their heels in the ground now to try and stop doing the residual system. Now, I do think that if you aren't going to be doing the residual system, if they don't want to do that anymore, they're going to seriously have to up what they're paying everybody, especially like the writers and the people doing it. It's going to have to cost much more to be warrant them not getting residuals. You've kind of got to, they're not getting money now from linear, so you're going to have to pay them. Netflix has been doing this for a while, where they would pay much more up front, and Disney have been doing it. But I think this is going to be a big sticking point. I think it's going to be a major issue for them. I think the AI stuff and all the rest of it is stuff that they can kick down the curb and just go like, we'll deal with that later. This residuals is the key thing that the studios do not want to give in on. They don't want to give 2% to the actors because then next month or in 3 years' time, they'll want 3%. And then the year after, 3 years later, they'll want 4%. And then the writers will want a percentage. And then the directors will want a percentage. And also the governments, each company are already wanting a percentage. And then you've got the platform networks like Apple and Google and Amazon that take a cut every time someone subscribes through their system. And then you get the government coming in with tax on it. You see this big pie. Suddenly, you're slicing down all these little 1% and 2% all over the place, and you're giving it out to 10, 20 different people. Suddenly, you've lost half your pie. And that is what they're going to be fighting to keep hold of. Not good. And I can see why they're doing it, but I definitely feel like actors and writers and directors and producers and everyone that's working on these shows are going to need much more money up front if the residual system is not going to be in place, because it has to balance out. You can't just take it away and expect them to be happy with it, because they're not going to be, and they shouldn't have to. But that's my little rant on the things. I do want them to get a better pay rise. Residuals, if they're going to do residuals, they have to do it. I think the percentage system actually probably is the better way of doing it, but I think if you're not going to do residuals, you're going to have to pay more up front. You're going to have to do much more up front if that's how to do it. Matt says, with streaming services losing money and trying to cut costs, there has to be a big reason why the studios are resistant to these demands. Money. They don't want to be giving out the money for this stuff. They do not. And if they give in on some of these things now, they are setting up themselves. If they give in on 2% now, that will set up this market for streaming, for residuals, for the rest of eternity for streaming. And that is what they're trying to fight against. And that's why they're so resistant about doing this system, because they do not want to do it. There is going to be a compromise. They will get to a point where, obviously, the trouble is, in some way, some like the writers and stuff, if they're trying to have both, it's not going to work. They're probably going to need to pick one. But I think we're in it's a really difficult situation, because the system that's been built around linear has broken, and things need to be changed. And the people that are working on these shows need to be paid properly. If they're not happy and they're not getting paid enough, and they're not getting everything that they need to, and we're not talking here about Tom Cruise making $200 million. You're talking about actors and stuff that, they need this money to pay their rent. They need this money to pay for food and their healthcare and all that. We're not talking about the millionaires and all the rest of it. We're talking about so many people in acting that, and when you look at a scene, the two people at the front are the ones that are getting the most, or getting all of them. But all those other people in the background are all getting paid, and they, it's a very short, limited time. And yeah, they definitely need to get more money because the system has changed. Right, let's jump now into some other questions here. As Lady Jennifer Snow says, the studios do not want to open up their books. That is a very key thing. They do not want to give data to anybody regarding their streaming services. They do not want to let anyone know how much is being viewed, because for failures, but also for success. Because if something is really, really, really popular, it creates a problem. And if something's really unpopular, it creates a problem. So it's definitely difficult going on. Gary says, with the strike going on, who finds it hilarious that Disney is killing off Asian productions as well? I wouldn't say I find it hilarious. I definitely wouldn't say that. But I think they it's all very fine creating those Asian properties and stuff. But if like American audiences and stuff aren't watching them, then that's the big problem, I think, for them. It's a very, very tricky situation with it all, with how all that comes together. It is a very tricky, as I said, awkward situation, but it is a little bit odd. They probably could have done with keeping this stuff going, but again, they are trying to get that budget down because Disney Plus needs to make a profit by next year. Matt says, could you say Disney or someone else buy Star Trek? It'd be a good buy. Disney can't buy anything. Disney are not in the mode right now where they can buy anything out. I think even Amazon are like trying to cut back on costs. Netflix, I think Netflix could go for. I think it would be a good pickup for Apple. I think Apple could really come in now and pick up some good assets if it wants to do streaming. If it doesn't want to do streaming, it might as well just get out of the business. Ricardo says, can it be one of the demands of actors and writers is the studios not to remove content for tax write-offs if they're already released, or maybe re-add some of that content? Well, I don't think it's good, and definitely not. I definitely think, but the trouble is, I don't think they would ever agree to it, because the tax write-off system, you got to remember as well, is if they do the tax write-off system, the actor will have already been paid, and if they're not making any residuals on it anyway, writing it off really doesn't make a lot of difference from them getting any money from it. It doesn't help with, you think that they put all this money in or the effort in and now it's gone, all the rest of it. That's awful. But from the residuals point of view, they're not making any money from it anyway, from it going. So, them like taking away Willow, they probably weren't going to be getting much of these checks anyway. So it's probably not a huge amount of savings there. It's just the fact of they can write off the cost of that show in bulk. It's so much more than they could do if they were selling it and stuff. Hello to Ryan. I don't know what you keep messing. So Suna says, how much more content are we going to see when they merge Disney Plus and Hulu together? So I would definitely say, as a guide, anything that is from Disney Studios, so FX, ABC, National Geographic, FX, 20th Century Studios, expect that to move over to Disney Plus. That's probably, I would say that's 99% good. Fox content, so stuff like Bob's Burger kind of falls into it, but any of the Fox content, because they've just signed a new deal, so Gordon Ramsay, Hell's Kitchen, that kind of thing, that stuff is probably all going to move over with it. I think where we're getting into difficulty with Hulu is anything made by NBC, anything made by any other network that is not, but that's kind of like Warner. That's where we're going to start seeing some stuff disappearing. I also wouldn't be at all surprised if we start seeing some of the anime leaving as well. Disney's too busy penny pinching to acquire anything right now. They're not in a buying mode right now. Matt says, what Marvel character do you want to see a collection made? I'm surprised we've not had a Nick Fury collection yet. I'm surprised we haven't seen that. Knoxway says, I feel like Daredevil Born Again might be delayed to 2025 while they haven't wrapped filming yet due to the strike. With 18 episodes, do you think they will split it into 2 parts? I think you're spot on. I think the show is delayed till 2025, and I think it's going to get split into 2 or 3 seasons to spread it out a little bit. But I think the whole idea of them doing 18 episodes was a lot, and I think they're going to split it up. Whether or not they split it up and we get like part 1 like in early 2025 or even maybe late 2024, depending on what they have to do with Covenant of Chaos, and gives themselves a year to catch up. That might be how they do it. But I think they might split it depending on how far they got into filming. Don says, if Disney had full control over Simpsons, do you think they would cancel it? No, there's a big money rounds to go. Kelly says, Iger's approval rating might be down, but ironically, it's better approving than DeSantis. Jonathan says, will Disney's 100 years in Epcot on October? I'm not quite sure, because obviously Epcot does its anniversary on the 1st of October. I've been there a few times during that. It's great. Whether or not, I don't quite know what you mean on that one. Don't worry about being late, Dana. Not a problem. Bubba Trolling says, do you think Disney has made a mistake with the Fox buyout? I don't think they'd go for it today. I think if they, it's kind of weird because there's some great assets that they've acquired. I think like FX, 20th Century Studios, and National Geographic. I think there have been some really good pickups. And I think that's good. I think that's really helped strengthen Disney's, especially with the Star side. It's really ramped up. But then if they start cutting back and getting rid of half the stuff they're making, it's like, well, what was the point? 20th Century Studios put out some great movies. I think they've been they got kneecapped a little bit over the last few years. It feels like let them do their thing. Let them do some stuff that Disney can't do. Let them be the touchstone. Let them do the action films. Let them do the horror. Let them do the stuff that Disney can't do. Leave the family-friendly stuff. Let Disney deal with that. Let 20th Century do the stuff that I think that they can go somewhere. That one, I think FX is a fantastic brand for them to expand into proper adult, mature content, as I think is really good, high-quality content. I think Searchlight Pictures is fantastic, but they also got laden with so much stuff that Fox owned that I don't think they can really asset. I think Star in India has been something that I just don't feel like they're able to manage properly. I don't think they get it. I think there's so much money has been spent on it, but I just don't think they get it. I think the whole problem in Latin America as well with like the sports channels and Star Plus, it feels like they brought stuff that they really didn't fully get. And I'm not entirely sure if they needed that 33% of Hulu. I feel like they probably would have been better had they, if they had only had 33%, they might have just sold and got out of it. So yeah, don't know. Tracy says, what do you think of the live action Snow White? Why is it Disney can't leave classics alone? Yeah, so there's been some images going around the internet. I tend to, if they're cast photos, I tend not to shoot it. I don't tend to post them because they're usually been done by, and you have to pay it, and this all of it. So it's a bit more tricky. But there's some pictures, and like everyone's kind of upset about how it looks. You got to remember, there's probably going to be a lot of CGI done to change how they look. So how they look in those pictures probably isn't how it's actually going to end up looking. As far as why they don't leave them alone, because they were making billions of dollars with them. Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, they've all done fantastically well. And so that's why they haven't. I do think we're going to see a lot less. I think they've been to the well too many times. It's a little bit dry. We're all a little bit sick of what it tastes like. And I feel like Disney they've just been churning so much of the same stuff. And there's fatigue. There's that kind of thing of, oh, good, another Disney live action film that's remade of an animated film. Well, I've not seen that happen before. It's like, it's not new. It's not exciting. I'm not a huge fan of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's okay. I mean, I know it's a historic film and I've watched it because of that. But generally, it's not. It's like, I've seen, we had the recent reversions with Kirsten Stewart. Like, I don't care. The Little Mermaid, it was fine. I'm looking forward to seeing it again when it drops on Disney Plus. I'm not looking forward to the Lilo and Stitch one. I don't see any point for it. They've just overcooked it. Other than Star Wars, what else can Lucasfilm make? Well, they can make really. I really enjoyed Indiana Jones, but I think they just need they need some freedom. They need to be able to allow to be experiment. The trouble is, like, Lucasfilm is kind of, they need to fix Star Wars and focus on that rather than being distracted with all this other stuff. That's Lucasfilm is Star Wars. That's what they do. Kelly said, as for the Star channels in India, it'd be nice if the Taka Group and their strategic partner, NBC, Paramount, and Warner Brothers have strategic partners with Reliance Industries. Yes, I don't really know exactly how all of it works there. So it's very, very tricky, but it does sound a bit like, I wonder if they're going to sell the linear. I think Disney are going to get out of linear globally. I think they're going to drop any channel that they've got is going to be gone in the next few years. I think they're getting out of linear and they're going all in on streaming. They're going to make Disney Plus the core thing. And yeah, I think linear is something that they're going to just be dropping like something crazy. Right. Let's see. Ryan says, why doesn't Pixar do based on books and comics as it's beyond the studio's premise? They like to do original stuff. That's why they don't do books and comics. Matt says, when does notice of Hulu with all the content that you have on Disney Plus? When does notice of Hulu with all the content that you have on the... Not sure what that means. Sorry. Dana says, the delay of Deadpool 3. Now Ryan Reynolds will be happy he can be at the opening game of Wrexham AFC. Matt says, when Hulu merges with Disney Plus, wish you the same content as the UK version. I think we're going to see a very similar version. I think there'll actually be a little bit more licensed content in the US. Right. Where are we? So loads of questions. So I'm just going to plow through some more of these. As I said, it's going to be a bit of a longer one. C-Tan says, in the event that the studios and streamers accept all the streaming parties' demands, do you anticipate major changes in Disney terms in terms of pricing, advertising, and content? More expensive, more adverts, less content. That's my guess on that. Matt says, do you think Disney will restore more classic films like Cinderella in HD? Yeah, I think we're going to get more 4K versions because I think they can. It's in their best interest to keep them updated. And also, film is a lot easier to upgrade to like 4K than like, if they filmed a lot of the stuff from like the 80s and 90s was filmed on tape, which can't be restored as easy. Muppet says, do you think they will continue with the live action remakes? What we've just talked about. What do you think they will do next? And how do you think they can improve on the previous remakes' poor reception? Just stop doing them. Just stop doing them. Just leave this thing alone. Let this mode. You can do the odd one. If you're going to do Moana, but you can only do one at any one time in a 3-4 year cycle. Give them a bit of a rest. Dana says, do you think Disney should make a real dark fairy tales through one of their studios, either in Disney Plus or as a movie? I don't know if right now they're going to be in the mode to do anything slightly risky. I think we're going to see a much safer Disney in terms of the Disney brand. I think they might keep away from that. C10 says, with the Hollywood strikes potentially going on to last for months, what will be the short and medium impact on Disney Plus, Hulu, and the Disney company overall? Short-term impact is no advertising for anything coming up over the next few months that they haven't already pre-recorded. We're going to see a lot less content dropping in the medium term, and they're going to be probably backfilling and also using the Hulu content to kind of flush over the fact that that there's less stuff. And Disney as a whole is going to be a lot leaner and meaner. Mamo says, do you think adding the Hulu content to Disney Plus in the US will help with the service, whether the effects of the writers and actors strike and the reduction of original content? This is going to fix a lot of these problems. Looking at the writers and stuff, it will help as a little band-aid in between, and it will make Disney... I think a lot of people are going to start looking at Disney Plus a little bit more positive when you start seeing stuff dropping daily of new shows and new episodes. When you go in there, and that new on Disney Plus is something different. And you're in there more, because that's the key thing as well. You're going to be in there more watching shows, and you're going to start feeling like you're going to feel like you're in Disney Plus, because that's what I found as well. You're in there more. You go in there maybe first to see what's out because there's something different, or you're watching another show. That's going to be the key difference. Tracy says, what do you think of the situation at Lucasfilm? Do you think Kathleen Kennedy is on her way out? Yes. And what is your take on what's happening at the parks with the lack of people? And was Indy 5 as bad as the critics made it out to be? Sorry for the long questions. Haven't asked anything. Yeah, don't worry about asking questions. That's what you're allowed to. That's what the whole point of this is. I thought Indy was really good. I enjoyed it. I think we have a little bit of a thing this summer where box office is very, very light. People aren't going the same way. I know here in Europe and also in the US, and around the world, there is a money crisis going on. People have not got as much money. Going to the cinema is expensive. They've stacked up too many releases back to back. And they've created a model where you can wait. And if the trouble is, if you lose it by a week, another movie comes out, and then another movie comes out. And there's a certain audience that are going every week to see the new thing, and people are waiting for the next bit. And also, I feel like too many sequels, nothing really original. I mean, you look at this summer, the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks. It's all. I mean, Oppenheimer and Barbie are like new. At least they're new. But all the big, Spider-Man, Mario, or Spider-Man, Indiana Jones, Little Mermaid, they're all established brands. I think the thing is with the parks, I think we're also seeing again the costs of living have just gone up. I know, like here, to go on holiday now is a good 20-30% more expensive than it was last year, and you've got less money because everything has gone up. Your shopping bill's gone up, your electric's gone up, your gas has gone up, your mortgage has gone up, rents have gone up, car bills have gone up, your insurance, everything's gone up, and you're not making any more money. So there's less people going on vacation. Disney World is just more expensive, and people are going elsewhere. And also you had that huge bump of people last year getting out after the pandemic where you wanted to get out. They've done that one. It's so expensive. I think it's vastly being under. It doesn't seem to get brought up enough about. Oh, they're going. Disney's expensive. It's like it's not just Disney's expensive. Everything's got expensive. I mean, we went to Vegas last year and it was so expensive. It was like $9 for a bottle of Coca-Cola, and it was extortionate prices, and that wasn't anything to do with Disney. It was just it was extortionate. Dana says, any thoughts on Bob basically saying in the CNBC that he's open to selling the ABC networks? I think he's right. I think leaving linear is if they are not making enough money there, or it's going, streamlining your linear, start making an exit plan for it rather than trying to just keep these things going. Matt Ass said, if Disney sells the linear channels in the US, what will happen to the content that is on Disney Plus from those channels? It's going to stay. He's looking to sell the channels. He's not looking to sell the studios and the content. He wants the content. He stated that. He just doesn't think the linear television network distribution system works anymore. Muppet Don says, are they actually making High School Musical 4, or is it just a plot line from the High School Musical, the season 4, which is coming up in August? It is just a plot from the new series. And I've had a few people message me going, are they making High School Musical 4? It's like, no, that's the storyline in the series. So no, they aren't making it, unfortunately. Tim says, with Disney opening up the vote, could we see Spot the Dog coming to Disney Plus due to the strike, as Spot the Dog is owned by Disney? I think it's only got distributed by Disney in the US. So here in the UK, it wasn't. It was the BBC. So therefore, it opens up a whole can of issues, and also depends on the quality of those things from the 80s, because they're not always, depends how much they've been restored. Mahmoud says, what do you think is the best way for Disney to deal with their India business? Now, I think they should definitely think they should keep Disney Plus Hotstar, and at least just turn it into Disney Plus Globe like it is everywhere else. I don't see them getting out of that. I've heard someone say like they're going to sell the streaming business. It's like, I don't think they're going to, they've got it up there. They've got their subscribers. They might as well just keep making the money they're doing. But they're just probably going to drastically, I think they're going to either sell the linear networks and maybe get out of the studio stuff so they're not making TV shows. I think they're just going to leave India and treat India like they treat every other country in the world, where they make a couple of movies and a couple of shows to kind of for local content, and just sell the US stuff like they do in every other country. I think they're going to see a big shift. Uniloud says, when is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 coming to Disney Plus? We do not have a date yet. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we get a date soon. It's just been released on digital. I know a few people are asking about the fact that it was showing up on like the Sky Store and stuff. We're going to start seeing this now. It's probably going to be 2 months at least on digital before it arrives on Disney Plus. I wouldn't be at all surprised if it arrives on Disney Plus maybe in September. I feel we're at a point now where we are going to maybe 90 days to 120 days from cinema to Disney Plus is going to become probably much more standard. 2 more pre-done questions, and I'm going to be live for the rest of the show. So we'll just keep going for a bit longer. Like I said, it was going to be a bit longer. It's already 20 minutes. So there we go. Babak says, will Disney Plus slow down its release schedule given the writers and now actors strike? Yes, we're going to see a drastic reduction. But I think we were going to see a drastic reduction anyway because they're cutting back on Marvel, cutting back on Star Wars, they're cutting back on International, they're cutting back on the originals. But also Disney Plus originals, I think we're going to see less of because the linear network studios like ABC and stuff are going to start. When that Hulu model kicks in, you're going to start having all this content dropping into Disney Plus from ABC News Studios and FX and 20th Century and ABC. You're going to see all this stuff floating through the system, and they're going to be less reliant on the originals. So I think we're still going to have some big ones, and there'll still be stuff that's like big shows. But maybe if they're putting out, say in August, they've got Ahsoka and Only Murders in the Building. So that's probably a good like originals for them. Last question on the pre-done ones, and then we'll be live for the rest of the show. Tim says, when could we see the Wiggles movie come to Disney Plus as it's owned by 20th Century Fox? Well, it's only owned by 20th Century Studios. I think the distribution in like Australia. Internationally is held by another company, so they might not be interested. They might put it on if they work it out, but there might be a reason why it's not on there. Right, now we're live for the rest of the show. I'm guessing Muppet Don's taking it. High School Musical, the musical. Yeah, it is a bit like that. Knoxwave says it kind of sucks that the cast of the Haunted Mansion didn't attend the event at Disneyland. Yeah, it was. And you can see now why they were trying to rush through the Barbie and the Oppenheimer and even Indiana Jones. They were all doing their press junkets much earlier because of this situation. See you later, Ryan. Thank you very much for joining us. Barbatronic says, I don't think that Comcast will not acquire Warner Bros. Media because the industry in the whole is in a sell mode. I think they might be able to sell it for parts or strip it down a little bit. Matt says, do you think Mandalorian season 4 will be the last season? No, I think Mandalorian can go a lot longer. And the other good thing with the Mandalorian is they're going to be doing a big like crossover movie. But the cool thing with the Mandalorian is they can keep that one going much easier than the other ones because Pedro Pascal is basically just doing voiceover. So he can do this one for another 10, 15, 20 years because it doesn't matter what he looks like. And obviously the technology of Grogu will just get better. So in some ways, the Mandalorian, I probably think, is the easiest one for them to carry on because they can film it like all the time. Muppet Don says, last night I saw a cinema owner saying that when there's new films every week, it's better for them because people are saying, oh, let's go to the cinema every week. Yeah, and then they say that, but then like on the news as well, we've got a load of cinemas are all going into administration because they're not making enough money. Cinemas like having new films every week, and there's an element of like the youth will go to the cinema every week. I used to do that. I used to go all the time. But there's a massive difference between you going on your own when you're a student or when you're like a young adult. You're going on your own and you're having a cheap night out and you maybe go on Orange Wednesdays or whatever, Meerkat Tuesdays, and you're going on and you're just paying for yourself and you maybe sneaking some snacks in that you shouldn't, and that's fine. But when you got families going and you got a family of 4 or 5 or 6 of you and you're buying snacks and it suddenly turns into a very expensive day out, or if you're going on a date night, date nights has kind of always been that thing. But as you get older, it's like less comfortable and all the rest of it. I think cinemas, I also wonder if there was we had too many cinemas opening up with big screens and multiplexes years ago. And now we're seeing a little bit of a retraction where we maybe don't need all those screens. But I mean, I think there should be a new film out every week. I definitely think there should be, but a little bit more choice. I mean, if you were looking at like in the old, you would go back like 10, 15 years, all those films that are going straight to Netflix and stuff would have been going to cinemas. Botronic says, do you think Apple will buy Disney? No. It's just Apple or not, they would never be able to get that would never go through the governments. They would never allow Apple to become that big. It's too big. And it's too broad. Because it's not so much as a case of just Apple controlling. I think that would give them way too much control. If the strike goes over a year, what will happen to Disney Plus? We're just going to get less. If it went for a year, I don't think it's going to last a year. I don't think they could go that long. We're going to see documentaries, international originals, probably a lot of British dramas and Australian dramas because they'll be able to film them here. And they'll be able to write them here because there'll be different people involved. Yeah, we're probably, if it was going on for a year, we're just going to see a lot of international, a lot of documentaries, lots of reality, lots of unscripted dropping in. Matt says, do you think we'll get a new season of Doogie Kamealoha MD? And I think that one's gone. I think that one, it kind of, I don't know about you, but I felt like with Doogie Kamealoha MD on season 2, we kind of got to the end of, it felt like a natural end. Muppet Don says, so you're on Coca-Cola tonight. I will let you in on the fact of when I'm at the supermarket each week and I buy my sodas, whichever one is cheaper, whichever one, if Coke or Pepsi, whichever one is cheaper, I will be buying that one. I don't really have much of a preference. I'm quite happy having any brand of cola or soft drink because I actually tend to buy, I do drink too much soda, but yeah, I will just buy whatever's on offer. So I've got no loyalty to Coke or Pepsi. I will buy whichever one is cheaper that week. Let's see what else we've got here. Ricardo says, one person on Twitter said Disney could rebrand Lucasfilm as Star Wars Studios, but at the same time, to give the company IPs as Pirates of the Caribbean or Alien or Predator or Planet of the Apes. No, champ. The simple thing is, Lucasfilm does Star Wars. That's what they're known for. But you still got to have 20th Century Studios kicking. And I don't think Lucasfilm would want Aliens. Or I think Aliens and Planet of the Apes are very much in that 20th century line. I don't think that's right. Right. Oh, Bubbatronic says, do you think Disney will sell A&E? That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. That could be a way of them selling off some assets in linear. That could very easily happen. Ricardo says, do you think if Disney sells Star in the Star brand could be immediately rebranded as Hulu internationally? What name could the TV channels have with the Star name? They might keep the Star brand as the television network, but you got to remember, if they sell the television networks, then they're going to worry about that. But I could easily see the Hulu brand replace Star, like here in the UK. Gary says the live action dwarves don't look really tall. Yeah, they did look. I don't know. The thing is, we don't know what they're going to do to the special effects. Kayla says, I don't think acquiring 20th Century was a mistake. The problem was the pandemic happened right after the acquisition. Since then, they've been trying to offload the debt. That was definitely a big issue. It's like they basically spent so much out of it, and then they got hit so hard they weren't able to really kind of kick it in. Right. Well, thank you very much for the super chat from Bones. They need to pay fees and add the original Muppet Babies to Disney Plus. I used to love that show when I was a kid. I think the problem is the music. I think that's the biggest problem with it. But yeah, I 100% agree that the original one would be great on it. So again, thank you so much for that one there. Matt says, what's the difference between 20th Century and 21st Century Studios? So 21st Century Studios was, they kind of created that at the 21st century. And what they did with that as well was they kind of, because they ended up buying 21st Century because it kind of became the company. It kind of got spun off, but I think that's what it is. Tracy says, with TCM going here in the UK, wouldn't it be a great idea to put more classic movies here on the UK on Disney Plus? Yeah, I think they're really missing the trick on Disney Plus of not utilizing those classic films from Fox. It just feels just wrong that they're not doing it. Definitely seems wrong. Right. Okay. So there we go. So that is the end of this week's show. It's a little bit of an extended one. We did an extra half an hour. As I said, I slightly messed up and put out to and let we had a lot of questions, a lot of news this week. So I'll be back tomorrow with a news update. Got a few little stories and stuff. Probably going to see maybe a little bit less news happening over the next couple of months, but who knows? We'll still be covering what we can. But yeah, so obviously a big thank you to all of our supporters. It really makes a lot, especially right now, because if there is a drop off, being a supporter and helping us out really does make a massive difference. And I can't stress that enough right now. So a huge thank you to all of your support. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. Sorry, Sosina, didn't answer your question. Sosina, do you want to just pop your question in again? Because I remember I've answered a few of your questions, but if you just pop yours in again, I'll answer it now before I go. Yeah, so as I said, so also this week, check out the interview I did. I posted it yesterday with the production manager of World's Best. So if you could check out that interview, that would be great. It's always good. Okay, here we go. So Suna says, can you get Disney Plus with Hulu if you get the ad version, I'm guessing? So what we don't really know how this is going to work, but I suspect what we're going to be doing is, if you have your Disney Plus profile and you have the Disney streaming bundle, you're going to be able to access Hulu within Disney Plus. If you have if they're the same username or same user things, they'll be connected. If you have got Hulu with a different email address and a different account, they're not going to come in that way. You may be able to link them, but generally they're probably going to have to be the same email account, the same Disney account, in order to access them at the same time. Does that make sense? Hope that answers your question. Well, anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll be back, as I said, I'll be back with another video tomorrow. I'll be back next week with another live Q&A. And on that note, guys, very much. See you guys soon. Laters.